My name is Blake Volkman. Today is March 25th, 2026. The time is 3 o'clock. We're at the Pewaukee VFW. I am interviewing Jake Forystek, who was born on March 5th, 1976 in Milton, Wisconsin, and served in the Second Gulf War between 1998 and 2005. Jake Forystek was a corporal in the Marine Reserves and then later transferred to the Army National Guard. He served as a heavy equipment transport operator in the Army National Guard, and in the Marines, he was an infantryman. This interview is sponsored by the Bell Tower Memorial. All right, so to start this off, what were you doing before you entered the service?
I graduated from college, and I was looking for a teaching position. But prior to that, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, and I kind of had it narrowed down to two things. I either wanted to be a U.S. Marine or a teacher, and so I applied for officer candidate school right out of college, and I was accepted. And I did 10 weeks of officer candidate school. I graduated, and they offered me a commission. However, at that point, I wasn't sure that I wanted to do it full time as a career. So I decided to not accept my commission, and I took a teaching job in New York City. But I kind of had a feeling like I still wanted to serve. So I joined the United States Marine Corps Reserve, and I got to do both. I got the best of both worlds. I got to pursue a career in teaching as well as serve in the military.
That sounds great. Was your family supportive of the decision? How did they feel about you enlisting?
Well, my mother was very against it. Her brother was severely injured in Vietnam. He was an infantry Marine. So I don't think moms get too excited when you say you want to be an infantry Marine.
Did that ever affect your thinking of joining, knowing that story?
Yeah, I guess it was the big. Well, I didn't. When you're 21 years old, you don't worry too much about that kind of stuff, I don't think. But I also knew I wanted to, not worry my mom to death. So I kind of made a compromise, and that's when the reserves was kind of a good fit. But my parents are patriotic people, and my father, both of my grandfathers served in World War II. My grandpa Ted Forystek, he was a combat veteran, and the Southeast Pacific. So my father, he didn't say a lot about it. He didn't try to talk me out of it, but my mom, I could tell she was worried.
Yeah. So your officer candidate school, does that mean you didn't go to basic training?
Correct. So like the way that it, at least at this time, and I think it's the same thing now, if you have a college degree and you didn't do ROTC, you can get accepted into officer candidate school.
Okay.
And you do 10 weeks. And if you graduate, that's like the first test. You do 10 weeks. And if you graduate, they offer you a commission as a second lieutenant. Then they send you to the basic school, which is a 6-month school that all officers have to go through, where they focus more on infantry skills and just general leadership skills. And then after that, they send you to your specialty school, like whatever your MLS will be.
Okay.
So,
yeah, that makes sense. After officer candidate school, what was your next move?
Well, I I had come back to Wisconsin, and I was kind of I was hanging out with my buddies. I had some friends who were attending UW-Madison, and I would go and visit them on Mifflin Street and have a good time. But I still kind of felt, I wanted to. I was young and idealistic, maybe. I wanted to do something, be part of something bigger.
Yeah.
So I wanted to figure out what I wanted to do for a career, but I was missing like the connection to service in the military. So I looked into the Marine Corps Reserve, and they said, "Heck yeah, let's do this." And I was prepared to go to boot camp, but they said you're not allowed to go to boot camp. You've already done OCS, and the government's only going to spend so much money on you. So anything you might have missed in OCS, they're going to make it, you're going to have to do your training at your unit. So
yeah. And then was this in your early years of like service? Like, do you know what year? I know you started in 1998.
Yeah, that would have been like 98, 99.
That was 98, 99. So when did you transfer to the Army National Guard again? Was that after or prior to 9/11?
That would have been after 9/11. So I was in the Marine Corps from about 98 to 2003. And I was in 2 units. I was in the golf company in Madison, Wisconsin, when I was living and going to school for grad school in Wisconsin. In 2 of those years, um, I had moved to New York City, and I was teaching in New York City. And I joined the unit out there was in Garden City, Long Island. That was a weapons company. But so I was like, wherever you live and wherever you're working, if you're part of the military or the reserves, you'll be attached to the nearest unit, and then you'll be responsible for drilling with them.
Were you glad that you didn't have to like travel very far with the Marine Corps?
Yeah, I've had friends who they switch units. Like one of my friends, he went to become a pilot, and he had to like travel out to South Dakota. So he would drive however many hours, 7 hours for a drill weekend. So that was a huge commitment. It was easy for me. When I was in Wisconsin, I'd live in Janesville or Whitewater, and I just had like a 45-minute drive to Madison. When I was living in New York City, it was about 45 minutes or an hour.
How often was that drive? Like every day? Or?
So if you're drilling, if you're in the reserves, you do 1 weekend a month where you'll report on a Friday night, and then you'll get done Sunday night, and you'll go back to your regular job. So you do that 12 times, and then you do annual training for 15 days or 2 weeks in the summertime, typically in the summertime, where they will send you'll go on like a bigger training. Typically we've gone to Camp Pendleton, Camp Lejeune. I was sent to Norway, trained with the Dutch Royal Marines in Curacao. We were supposed to go to France and do like a NATO mission. Then the Iraq War happened, and that got canceled.
So like that, this was all what you were doing before 9/11. Was anything else eventful happening before?
Well, they sent me to the School of Infantry, which was awesome. And so that was a 6-week school. I think they might have lengthened it a little bit since then. But that was at Camp Pendleton. And that's where you learned, how to fire all the small weapons in the Marine Corps, infantry platoon. We fired some larger weapons too, grenades, mortars, mines, things like that. And then once I got a little time in, I went to infantry squad leader course, and this was actually, I went to this picture of they sent a bunch of us corporals out to Camp Pendleton, and this was my New York unit. We were the ones who sent to the school. This was the July before 9/11.
Gotcha.
So, yep.
So shifting a little bit ahead to 9/11, where were you during 9/11, and did that affect you heavily, or did it affect you at all?
Yeah. So I was teaching. I had taught for 2 years in New York City, and I did my annual training with the guys from the New York unit, and then I had to fly back to New York City a couple times. Well, let me back up a second. I moved back to Wisconsin, and I had gotten into a grad program at UW Whitewater. So I was going to start grad school in August. So I was kind of in between things. I was doing grad school, but I would fly back to New York City to finish up my drill weekends.
Like everywhere.
Yeah, I used to fly a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I was doing before then. So right before, 2 days before 9/11 happened, I actually finished my last drill weekend. So it was like Sunday night, September 9th, 2001, I flew, I think I was out of JFK Airport. And I remember flying over Manhattan and seeing the Twin Towers for the first time, like during the daylight. And I was just amazed, like looking at how big those towers were. And the one thing that I remember clearly thinking was, wow, those buildings stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, and then, is this you in this picture right here?
Yeah, that's one of my friends from Milton who actually came out to visit me in New York. But you can see we could picture in front of the Twin Towers, and
that might have been the same area, like time frame, or was that earlier on?
This would have been, that would have been like during the school year before. This looks like around May 2001 timeframe, April,
Okay,
May,
a
I
couple
believe.
months before,
Yeah.
yeah. All right. And then on 9/11, I'm assuming you were in Wisconsin then?
Correct.
Because you
Yep.
flew from New York to Wisconsin. Okay. How did 9/11, like seeing that happen, how did it affect how you wanted to join the military? Like, how did you feel about enlisting still?
Well, I
Yeah,
was
how did
in.
you feel
I
about
was already
serving?
in. And so yeah, I remember waking up that morning and getting a bowl of cereal or whatever, flipping on the news, and um, it was like there was just inklings of like a plane had hit. We didn't know it was a terrorist attack. Like I had an early morning class at Whitewater, so I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go to class, and I went there, and it was just a normal day. And then all of a sudden, one of the other grad students came in, and she started screaming about the building, the Trade Center collapsed, and it was just really like shocking and surprising. Um, and it was sort of hard to process like what was happening. So they canceled all classes. We went home, and everybody was glued to the news. But one of my good friends, Sean Patrick Talon, he's actually in this picture. We were in infantry squad leader course together a couple months before that. He was a firefighter. I think it was ladder 10. He had just gotten hired there like 6 months before. He was still a probie, like it was in the probation period. He switched from being an EMT driver to a firefighter, and that was like his life goal. And he ended up, he was, reported to duty that morning. The plane had hit. He was in the breach and rescue squad, and so it was his job to take like crowbars and like open up doors and like let people out. And from what I understand, a lot of the survivors had he saved them because like there were people stuck in elevators. There were all sorts of people who would not have gotten out without him. A guy he was with was an older gentleman, probably like maybe my age or whatever, but he was had a heart attack on the way up because they had to take the stairs, and they're carrying all that equipment, and it was smoky and stuff. And he resuscitated him and sent him down, and then Sean kept going. Sorry, kept going up, and then he died.
Yeah, I hear you. Did that change how you felt about serving in the military? Like, did you want this feeling of revenge almost, or like
Yeah.
did you want? Were you more frightened?
I mean, not at that point. Like I was 25, like Sean was 26. Like we were just, when you're young, you're trained, and the Marine Corps trains you very well to fight and to be kind of harness that aggression. And so like, yeah, I mean, we were ready to go. We wanted to. All my buddies in New York were like, come back, rejoin our unit. I had transferred back to Golf Company in Madison. They come back. They were expecting me to come back, but my unit wouldn't allow me to transfer. Plus, I was like starting grad school, and I wanted to go back, but just because you're in the military and just because you're in the reserves or something, it doesn't mean it's not like you're like SEAL Team 6 or something where you're going to be on like immediately get to go and kill the enemy type of thing. So I Golf Company, we were just like waiting to see what would happen. But yeah, I was fired up. I mean, I wanted to fight. I wanted to take out vengeance upon whoever had done that. And then like 6 weeks later, in the rubble when they were finding bodies, they found Sean's body, and was able to fly out there for the funeral. And it was cool though. It was a
bizarre scene, I'm guessing.
What's that?
Was it a bizarre scene? Like, did you get to see the rubble and all that?
Yeah, that was crazy. I mean, it was, they wouldn't let you get too close to it, but it was crazy. Another buddy of mine, Edgar Rojas, he worked also in the trade center, and he had some sort of finance job, and he said that when the first plane hit, they were like, "Oh, you're fine. It was an accident or whatever. You guys can go back to your offices." And he's like, "Screw that!" And he wanted to get out of the building, so like he walked down and he walked like a half a mile to like a cafe or something, and he was watching it on the news. And then he said the building came down, and it was just like there was just like smoke and rubble everywhere. And he lived in Brooklyn, so he walked like 9 miles or whatever back to his apartment. And he said it was insane because like they shut down everything, so the only way he could get home was like literally walking across New York City. But I was that funeral. It was Sean was both of his parents were from Ireland. He was like a very proud Irish American, and he played the bagpipes, and he was really into that whole scene. And I believe it was in the Bronx where we had a Catholic funeral, and went into the church. It was a beautiful old church, and it was like on one side it was like all Marines in their dress blues, on the other side it was like a bunch of cops and firefighters, because they all like support each other. And there was not a dry eye in that church.
That must have been a great moment, though.
It was. I mean, it was almost like therapeutic. Like his sister talked about, gave a eulogy, and she talked about how we want justice for whoever perpetrated these acts on America, but she's like, we don't believe in vengeance for the sake of vengeance. And so like, because for like 6 weeks I was so like angry, and all my friends were. We were like, one of your good buddies is murdered, and we just but so that allowed me to get kind of like, all right, let's come back to earth, and you can't just live on rage, you can't live on anger. That's not healthy. So plus, if you have a mission, you got to focus on the mission. So that not like it brought well, in a sense it brought closure. And this was after like my daughter was born. I was able to go back to, this is one of the, the structure from the Twin Towers, and they made those into crosses.
That is a structure.
Yeah, that's like actually from the rubble.
Wow.
That was in Queens, but they had these memorials all over the place in New York.
Yeah. So you were deployed after 9/11, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
So yep.
How did just tell me about that, I guess.
So like I said, we were hoping to go to France. Our next annual training was to go to France and train with the French, and that would have been cool to go to a different country. But that was they got rid of that idea.
Yeah.
Yep. And a lot of the training we had done was for traditional war, where it's like against an enemy like the Soviet Union or something. Big tank battles, big infantry lines, traditional warfare. At that point, they switched the tactics and our training to more military operations in urban terrain. So they called it MOUT. So they built in Camp Lejeune and Camp Pendleton, they built cities that would look like a city in part of Baghdad or Kirkuk or Mosul or something like that, or some area in in the Middle East. And so we just did door-to-door, house-to-house clearing. How do you enter with a platoon or a squad of Marines? How do you enter a building? How do you secure it? How do you clear it?
So it's
that kind of stuff.
Ground combat, I guess you could say.
Yeah. So dealing with an insurgency, that type of deal.
How did your family react to you being deployed?
Well, it was kind of tough on them. I mean, there was a gap there from the Marine Corps to the next step. I served in the Marines, but we first invaded Afghanistan, and then 2003, March timeframe, the U.S. invaded Iraq.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was personally, I was confused because I didn't know what Iraq had to do with 9/11. But that's beside the point. When you sign up for the military, you sign a contract and you have to go wherever so you don't get to decide, no, I won't go to Iraq, I want to go to Afghanistan type of deal. But so I had Turkey wouldn't let us through on we were supposed to go over with my infantry unit. But Turkey said, no, you can use our airspace, but not our ground space. So our mission got canceled, and then we got put in the back of the line. And so I'm like, well, this is, not very cool. I wanted to go and serve as an infantryman. So we were just kind of not doing anything, and we were just training normally. So I eventually got out, and I was engaged, and then we had a kid on the way, and my my future wife, who was like, all right, let's, we're starting a family. Maybe it's time to get out of the military. But I missed it. I got, again, I got out, I separated, I missed it. And so I did a try one with the Army National Guard. And a try one meant like they did a stop loss where it's like you tried one, but now you can't get out kind of thing.
Yeah,
so
what is a stop loss?
Stop loss is just basically saying like we've trained you and we need you, so you're gonna stay
so
in. Yep.
that affected you. Then,
Yeah.
'Cause I know it doesn't affect some, but it does affect some as well.
Sure.
So you didn't get to be an infantryman.
No.
So what was your job during deployment?
My job during during the deployment was a heavy equipment transport operator. These like the largest trucks that the military has. We basically they're used to recover ammo enabling tanks that have been like the tracks have been blown off, or to transport them. So they're massive with huge winches and trailers. So we hauled those and other equipment all over Iraq.
Yeah, did you work closely with the other units, or like were you guys kind of separated?
Sometimes we would team up. I mean, we like the one thing that really stuck out in my mind when I went to the Persian Gulf, and the first time we took our trucks to like these massive cargo ships it was like acres and acres. Like imagine like 50 football fields just full of equipment, in Humvees and in tanks and in all sorts of stuff. And somebody's got to move it. So that was our job, to move that and deliver it all over Iraq.
Were you working like constantly throughout the day? Like, did you have any free time?
It was like when we were in Kuwait, we were at Camp Arifjan. So we would work like 10-hour days. I mean, we would work a lot depending on what the mission was. It was when we were on the road. Like the first month of missions, we would drive sometimes for like 23 hours straight, sometimes, less, depending on the threat level and the temperature and things like that.
Yeah, so the threat level coming into that. Was it dangerous? I mean,
they kind of got you prepped for like, watch out for any random like bag or box or something that shouldn't be there. But then you realize like the war's going on, so there's like trash all over. People aren't as worried about trash pickup during wartime.
Were you more heightened because of that? I feel like were you more on edge about things, or did you just go on without it?
Well, like the first month, like the first mission was like so like you're so hyper alert. You can't maintain that for an entire year. But yeah, we were like kind of like super alert. And my first mission was to deliver a brand new fire truck to Baghdad. I was in a convoy with probably 25 other trucks. So we did that. And then, but that's the first time we got hit. So it was like, you can't like get too relaxed. You feel like, oh, okay, I've been driving for 3 hours. I'm good to go now. And then all of a sudden we pull into Baghdad, and we took a turn, and it went from, it would look like there were structures all blown out. There were, bullet holes like from machine gun fire all over the place. And I was like, oh, this is where the war is happening. And then all of a sudden, the truck, it was 2 trucks ahead of me. I heard the loudest noise I had ever heard in my life. Apparently it was like 355 millimeter shells that were buried in the road were detonated. It was an IED, and it completely ripped that truck apart and killed the driver. He was what we call the TCN, a third country national. I believe that gentleman was from India. There were a lot of people from India in different countries who would work for the U.S. government.
Why would they work for the U.S. government?
Because they were poor and they needed the money.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. What was the most challenging part of the job? Like, was it transporting the vehicles, or was it like the emotions of seeing like all that?
I mean, it was like the first month and the last month were probably the most like stressful, because that's when like our convoys were actually hit and people were like injured or killed. But like the 10 months in between, or 9 months in between while we were active, it was just kind of like, felt like I was a civilian who carried a machine gun and a grenade launcher. It was like you just kind of like, I was a truck driver. So it wasn't, I mean, like driving for 12 hours straight wasn't like my dream, and I'm I'm Polish, so I don't really like the hot temperature. Like I burn easily. In the summertime, it was absolutely ridiculously hot, so I didn't like that. I'd say the temperature was the
especially in
worst.
that area. Yeah. Did you ever have any interactions with like the people, civilians?
Yeah, actually, like I busted out my journal, and I was reading about like the first night that we pulled in at dark outside of Baghdad, and then the sun came up, and we realized the only thing between us and like the village was like a shoddy concertina wire fence, and like out of like these mud huts. These little kids were coming up and shouting and trying to sell us stuff, and they were selling like bootleg DVDs and like old cartons of Marlboro cigarettes and crazy stuff like that. I was like, there was I bought some stuff from the kids because I was like, well, I I don't smoke cigarettes, but occasionally in the desert, when you wanted to smoke a cigarette, you would buy, and share them with your buddies. It was like, but not promoting that, but it happened. And and then the kid, like I bought, that was from like a 12-year-old. I felt guilty about that. But then there was a 10-year-old who was selling like this, like Viagra, and then his 8-year-old little buddy was selling switchblades, and I'm like, what the heck? Like, could you guys be in like school or something? But they literally lived in mud huts that had like satellite dishes on. It was a weird kind of. It was like I felt I was in like the Thunderdome or something.
Did you have to worry about them like being dangerous? Like, were you taught to be worried about them?
Well, there was like when we would leave Camp Arifjan, there was like this one turn we would take when we were getting into Iraq, and every time we were there, I was in the lead vehicle a lot. They would put a bunch of rubble and debris in the road that made our convoy stop. And when you have 100 trucks, like that's a long convoy. So what they would do, they would, like I was clearing the stuff out of the highway, they would go and attack one of the third country nationals. And like, it'd be like a gang of like 12 teenagers, and they'd pull them out. Like, so like some of these guys got like severely beaten, but the rules of engagement were like, you can't shoot a 16-year-old with your, like, that would be like just a PR nightmare for the military. So if I point my rifle at them, they'd be like, yeah, screw you, American, or whatever. So that was, they see much worse things than that. So I'm like, fine. I got an axe handle without the axe on it. I'm like, all right, well, I can't shoot you, but I can whack you with this. So don't tell anyone at Waukesha South about that. But like so I brought out the axe handle. I'm like, let's go. And I started screaming like a crazy man and swinging it. And like, you get a couple taps in the butt, and they know you mean business. So like, but because they were really like, they hurt some of the third country nationals. We were responsible for them. So
yeah. So how frequently were you in combat?
I mean, I wasn't ever like door to door, kicking down doors, fighting insurgents. Like our primary mission was to transport equipment and sometimes infantry, soldiers, army infantry would ride with us, and we would get their equipment where they needed to go. So it was like but any time you were going from base to base, like you were susceptible to IEDs. And so when I was in the lead vehicle, there were a number of times where we would come across guys who were trying to like bury IEDs to like do us harm. And then we had like computers in our vehicles, and we would like send a message back to Kuwait saying, hey, we got, so-and-so in a black Toyota, whatever. And they would send choppers out, and they would send the infantry out. And because when our trucks were loaded, we could max out at like 38 miles per hour. So you can't really chase anything down when you're going that slow. But yeah, I mean, there were times where like you had to, you didn't like stop and fight. You like our mission was like, just keep going, get the stuff, you get the equipment,
transport it,
get it to where it needs to go.
Yeah.
So.
All right. What were the living conditions like around the surroundings, the living conditions, all of it?
Well, I mean, your level of comfort kind of adjust based upon what you get used to. We lived in basically, when we weren't sleeping in our trucks, we lived in tents, and I was in a tent with like 7 other guys for a year. So I remember a couple times we stopped at some Air Force bases, and that's when you got like the steak and lobster and the good eats. And there you'd actually get like a trailer, like a brand new trailer with like, and you could share it with like your truck mate. And I was like, holy cow, when I get back to the U.S., I'm going to buy myself a trailer and live like a king. But then, but your expectations adjust based upon what you're surrounded by.
All right. And then what do you consider to be like the most important thing that you contributed to the service?
Well, I think, I've read, and they always said, like, for every Marine, infantry Marine, or infantry soldier, it takes like 10 people to support that
Mhm.
mission. So like I was definitely in a support role,
Mhm.
and so we supported them. The beans, bullets, and band-aids. We provided them with whatever they needed.
Mhm.
So that was my, I guess, greatest contribution to the
What was the most
military.
memorable thing that you had?
Well, I mean, there was like they just of the military in general, or of Iraq.
Iraq. We'll go
I think that's when I was off missions. I was introduced to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. There were a couple purple belts back in the gym in Kuwait, and it was like any chance that I could get, I was like, as soon as I get back to the States, I'm going to do it. Like, I loved it. It was so like fun and like therapeutic to like decompress to, and it was kind of those things where you like try to kick each other's butts, and then you get done and you hug each other or shake hands. And it was just like, it was that I fell in love with that. So
Yeah. So obviously you're a wrestling coach now, so that's affected your life heavily
sure.
too. And a purple belt.
Purple belt. Yeah, but I didn't get into it. I intended to get into it right away, but when my youngest daughter was like 12, that's when she got into it. So,
and you're a great wrestling coach. So
thank you, sir.
Happened to work out for you. How was it like transitioning from military life to civilian life after the military?
Well, I came back, and at that time, I was teaching special education at Washington High School in Milwaukee, and I was in an MRP room that's like the room with the students with behavior challenges in the basement, and so I didn't have any money, too much money saved up because we had a young family, and my wife, while she was at home, was like taking care of her ailing mother and our like 1-year-old child, which was a whole other story. But I jumped right back into work. I took like a week off, and I just keep working.
Yeah.
So it was. I think I would have, if I could have done it all over again, I would have liked to have taken some more time off. But it is what it was. So.
Seems like you got pretty back into it.
Yeah.
Away. Would you recommend a young person or kid to join the military?
I have a ton of young men and women ask me that question. Being a teacher at Waukesha South High School, and my recommendations are always the same. I say, do you really want to do this? Don't do it as like, I have nothing else planned and I'm not sure. I said, do it because you really want to. Do it because you love it. Do it because this is something that really stirs you and inspires you. Some kids don't have a plan and they get really nervous their senior year, and they're like, what am I going to do the following year? So they feel like, oh, I have to go to college, or I have to join the military. Like, you do it if you want to do it. I've also had some of my friends who were like combat Marines come and talk to some of our wrestlers, because earlier on in my teaching career, we had Ryan Johnson. He was the son of one of our teachers at South. He joined the Army, and he was in combat. But like, there were a number of guys who were interested in a lot of wrestlers joined the military, and I want them to know that it's not just like putting on the uniform and shooting guns. It's like a serious commitment, and you just got to be ready for it. You got to be able to take it very seriously.
So, what were some of the life lessons you learned or took back?
I think, I think one of the greatest things I got out of the military was just the camaraderie and the friendships that we had. Working as a team, learning how to work as a team to accomplish a mission. We, like the Marine Corps, it was always mission accomplishment was number one, but a close second is troop welfare. So it's like, it was always if you were a higher rank, you let the lower ranks eat first and stuff like that. It was always this whole thing about you're accountable for whoever you're leading. You're supposed to be a leader, but you're also there to serve them. So you make sure that they're taken care of. You give them directives, but you don't boss them around like peons. You make sure that they have what they need in order to accomplish the mission. So I think that level of like teamwork has always helped me in my mindset. And then just the other thing that I was thinking of on the way over is like, officer candidate school was very challenging physically, mentally, emotionally. Like Iraq had its challenges, different missions, different trainings had their challenges. And anytime I face something that like in life, because you're always going to face challenges and things that are new and difficult, I'm like, I can do this. Like take it 1 week at a time. If I can't take it 1 week, take 1 day or 1 hour at a time. Like you will get through it. If you grind, if you stick to the path, you're going to make it. So it's given me a confidence that I don't think I would have had without having served.
Yeah, of course. And is there anything that I missed so far? Anything you want to talk about? Pictures?
I mean, we're I got a lot of pictures, so no, I think
we hit all the
you hit all the major points, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. And in closing, this has been an interview of Jake Forystek regarding his service during the Second Gulf War. My name is Blake Volkman. The time is 3:45-ish, and thank you for agreeing to this interview. And most importantly, thank you for your service.
Thank you, Blake.